Hi everyone, welcome to the new episode of the Prime View series of interviews with top business and technology experts. In this episode, we are delighted to welcome Charity Majors, co-founder and CTO at Honeycomb, a company that builds robust debugging tool for modern applications that work in every stage of development and in production. Charity, thank you so much for taking the time. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Charity, in 2016, together with your co-founder, Christine Yen, you decided to start your own company. So tell us more about your career trajectory and your current responsibilities at Honeycomb.
Sure. Well, I'm a co-founder and CTO, and I've always been an ops engineer by trade. I'm a college dropout. I was a music major, college dropout. I've done operations engineering for Linden Lab, Second Life, for Parse, for Facebook. Working at Facebook, at Parse, we were doing some stuff. We were doing microservices before they were microservices and a lot of really cutting edge engineering stuff, and realized that the last generation of tools really didn't help us find problems at all. So we started using some Facebook tools and building some stuff around it. And that's what led to us building Honeycomb, because we realized that the older stuff just doesn't cut it anymore, and you kind of need a next generation of approach.
So, Charity, on Twitter, there are so-called internet wars of definition, right, and understanding what is observability and what is monitoring. And I know that you would never agree that observability is an updated or upgraded version of monitoring. So, to your vision and your understanding, if you could share with our listeners how observability is different from monitoring.
No, I think it's very distinct from monitoring. I think monitoring is about your known unknowns, and observability is about your unknown unknowns, right? This goes all the way down to at the technical level, how you write bits out to disk. Like monitoring uses aggregates, observability uses arbitrarily wide structured data blobs, which, you can slice and dice then to answer really complex questions. Observability is about how well can you understand the inner workings of a system just by asking questions from the outside. So, if you accept that definition, then a lot of things proceed from it. You need high cardinality, you need high dimensionality, you need blah, 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 all these very technical things, but it is very distinct from monitoring.
Oh, right now, DevOps is a very hot topic, and there are many trends. So I was wondering how those trends have impacted development of your product suite at Honeycomb.
I think that over the past 5 years, what you've seen is a huge gravitational shift from products that are about pre-production tooling to production tooling, to working on the systems as they're live, right? Whether it's, chaos engineering like Gremlin, or, feature flags with Launch Darkly, or observability with us, it's all about the idea that you can only do so much before you have to go live, right? The hardest, most interesting problems, you will never find them in a staging environment. You will only find them in production, where you've got the scale, where you've got the, where you've got, millions of connections, where you've got, it's not replicable in staging at all.
So despite the size and the complexity of applications, engineering teams, they get the ability to understand how code performs, and if anything raises there, they will get the full visibility of all the changes that have led to the change, and that opportunity to fix them, right, without actually guessing or going blind.
Well, it starts with capturing these raw logs, so arbitrarily wide structured data blobs. So you can do this really complex correlation across events. It's also from the perspective of the user, right? It's aggregated around the request from the user. So, we can ask very specific questions like, oh, there's a spike in errors. What are they? Oh, well, they're only errors all of their errors are going to this kind of iOS device with this version of, iOS, with this version of the build ID, with, this version of the language pack, that are running out of Canada, that are, you can slice it into these very specific answers, and you can do it in real time. We also start with SLOs, right? You have an SLO, which is basically your error budget. You have an agreement between your engineers and your business side that this rate of error is okay for our business, right? And then you've got a budget. And if you get alerted that you're running out of your budget too quickly, then you can come to Honeycomb and you can see like what exactly is causing me to go over budget, and then you can go fix those things.
Well, I believe that microservices, they have actually added up to that complexity.
It's always easier to build your systems with observability. It becomes really necessary when you're at large scale, but it's always easier to build with observability. Otherwise it's like you're just developing in the dark, right? And then you're shipping it off and you're like, well, I hope nothing pages us. Right? That's not, most bugs are too subtle. They'll slide under the radar and then they'll get big later, right? But by then you've forgotten what you were trying to do, what you were building, right? Observability gives you the ability to, ship it and then look at it in production and ask yourself, is it doing what I expected it to do? Does anything else look weird? You can combine it with like progressive deployment so that, you're running side by side, the old version and the new version, and you're comparing them to each other. There's just a lot of really powerful things you can do there to gain. It's like in the new world of software, you have to stop thinking of builds as like on off or like a binary switch, like black white. Instead, you need to think of builds or deployments as like a long process of gaining confidence in the code that you've just written.
Well, just as I mentioned before, observability is a very important thing, right, in the industry right now. And beside of the larger players like Datadog, New Relic, there are many smaller companies that are working hard to get their market share. So I was wondering, what is Honeycomb's competitive edge to stay in the leading position, right, in observability?
Well, there are no other tools out there that really do observability the way we define it. Well, Lightstep, but Lightstep just got acquired. I will say that I think that when it comes to like the Datadogs, the New Relics, the Splunks of the world, they're trying to get to we sit technically faster than we can get to where they sit in terms of a business. I also think that there may be some interesting up and comers who have, heard what we've been talking about and want to like mimic our success. And those are the ones I actually spend more time thinking about.
Well, Charity, recently you successfully completed the new round of funding, and I was wondering, how do you plan to use these funds? Do you plan to invest them in R&D and develop new products, or you plan to invest them in developing the new markets, right? I know that you have tripled your customer base in Europe, so is this something that you would invest into going further, like to other regions and invest in marketing and sales? So what's your plan there?
Part of our mission and part of what we've promised our customers is that we stay on the leading edge, not the bleeding edge, but the leading edge, and so we need to continue to innovate. We need to continue to bring observability to more people, make it easier, make it discoverable, make it fast to get started, make it more understandable to teams. So we've got a lot of work to do there. We're especially going to be investing in our free tier. Not many people know that we have a really robust free tier where engineers, and it's not like a 60-day bullshit or anything. It's like, you can sign up and it'll run forever, and you can run real production workloads on it. So we're going to be pouring a lot of resources into making that a better experience and making sure more people know about it, because the more people we can get to use observability tools, like they never want to go back, right? They never want to go back. One of our best sources of new customers is when an engineer leaves a team that was using Honeycomb and goes to another company and they bring us with them. So, the more we could get people's hands on it, the better. That's where we're going to be looking.
Well, I was wondering what skills and what type of people you're looking to bring to your organization in order to foster that innovation culture.
Yeah. Well, one of our company values is we hire adults, right? We hire people who are, who are capable of taking care of themselves, who are capable of asking for help when they need help. And, we're not looking for people who work themselves to death. We're, parents, we want our jobs to be compatible with parents' lives. That's why from the very beginning, we put an emphasis on having a distributed culture. Even though we do have a central office, we wanted it to be okay for people to go take meetings from soccer games or whatever. I think decoupling work from location is super important when it comes to diversity. We're also looking for people who feel like another one of our values is about, having autonomy and, behaving with ownership, right? Acting with ownership over your stuff. When you're a startup, as you know, everyone's an owner, right? You might own 3 or 4 different things that each of which might have a whole team at a larger company, and loving that kind of work and being okay with that and being able to kind of juggle responsibility is really key. What we didn't want to do when we came out of Facebook was just hire all of our friends or just hire all the people from Google or Facebook or all these, supposedly the best engineers in the world, because first of all, it's very debatable. I think that they have a socio-technical system that is the best in the world, but I don't think the engineers are any better. But also we wanted to make sure that remember that we're building a tool for everyone, not just people who come out of, the big 5 employers. We're building a tool for everyone, and therefore that we need to build it, by everyone. We need to have a diverse team of, different nationalities and genders and experience levels and every axis of diversity that we can add to the team is a huge net plus for us.
Yeah, and how difficult it is to find those type of people with those skills that are adults behaving like adults, that they are capable of taking ownership of their work, and they don't need too much supervision.
We have almost 100 people, and we are just hiring our very first recruiter. It's been amazingly easy for us, and I chalk that up to the fact that we've talked a lot about how our philosophy for teams and our philosophy for running the company and how we think about this, and it's a very appealing thought to a lot of people, and they want to come run this experiment with us. They want to come work on a team that runs the way we describe it. I always tell anytime a founder guy is asking me how he can build a more diverse engineering team, I'm like, do you have any female C-levels? Do you have any female VPs? Are they technical? Because if you do, diverse candidates will flock to you. So many people, I don't know how many people have told me they're just sick of reporting to all white guy, teams. And this comes more from men than women, but I just hear this all the time. We're sick of reporting to teams of execs that are just all white men, and they're just, maybe we fail, but at least we'll fail in new and interesting ways.
Well, I think that's something that plays really well for diversity as an important part of work for many professionals. And I know that lots of companies, they have promised to allocate budget and have their diversity and integrity strategy in place. But what you are telling us, it's more of the action and strategy that is already working rather than just planning to have it and implementing it.
Yep. There's a lot of people out there who talk a big game. I don't particularly like to talk about diversity, but I would rather let my actions speak for themselves.
Yeah, being a successful entrepreneur, what would be your advice to someone who is about to start their own company?
Don't do it. It's terrible. I'm never doing it again. It's the worst.
Really?
Yeah. No, it was, terrible. The first 3, 4, 5 years were just miserable. Lost my marriage, lost most of my friends, and it's a slog. It's don't do it unless it really has to be done. Pathologically stubborn. We don't give up, for better or for worse. Quit. I would say quit. You got to do what your heart says. If you're stubborn, maybe you'll succeed, but most startups don't succeed. Almost all startups fail. So it's just comes down to what you value in life, I guess.
Well, that is very unusual advice. Is there anything else except of stubbornness that helped you succeed at Honeycomb?
I think we were fortunate enough to get a look into the future. We were fortunate to be working on, very, very cutting edge software and next to and observing the Facebook tooling ecosystem. That was really nice. And it kind of gave us a glimpse of the future. And once we caught a taste of it, it's really hard to go back.
Well, since there are not so many women in leadership, could you distill a lesson from your career for young women who aspire to build their career in technology?
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't really popular advice, but I would say while you're junior, keep your head down. Try not to be too sensitive. Try to just learn everything you can. Don't take things too personally. Get to be a senior software engineer, and then once you're a senior engineer, once you have some power, then allow yourself to get sensitive and get sensitive on behalf of others. Research shows that women who advocate for themselves get punished for it, but women who advocate for others get rewarded. So what we can do as women is try to reward each other, and hopefully, it'll come back.
Well, I absolutely love this. It resonates so well with me, right? Being a door opener for the next generation, right? And help others succeed. So thank you so much. It's a great note to end on. Charity, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks again for making the time.
Thank you.